Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanachhalakaya चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपः कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरोः श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं सागरजातं सहगणा रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं प्रजनासहितं कृष्णचैतन्य एवं श्री राधा कृष्ण पादान सगणगीता श्री विशाखान्वितांश्च हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपते गोपेशा गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमस्ते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी शुभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिय वंशकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरभक्तवृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्ण श्रीमते रघुनाथ स्वामी नामिने नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्ण वेदांत स्वामी नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवी गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष सत्यदेशतारिणे मूकं करोति वाचालं पंगुं लङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुं दीनतारिणं परमानन्दमाधवं श्रीचैतन्येश्वरं हरे कृष्ण. So welcome back to the Chaitanya Pravaha series. Today we are discussing chapter 6 of the Madhya Lila. We are entering that part of the pastimes of the Lord that he is now making his residence in Jagannath Puri Dham. What we have discussed so far in the Madhya Lila across the first 5 chapters is how after taking sannyas the Lord first was directed to Shantipur, even though he wanted to go to Vrindavan, by Nityananda Prabhu. He spent a good number of days in Shantipur. He gave service opportunity to Sachi Mata, met with all the devotees, pleased everybody. And Sachi Mata requested him make Jagannath Puri his abode rather than Vrindavan. After that, Advaitacharya, as the Lord was departing for Jagannath Puri from Shantipur, Advaitacharya asked Nityananda Prabhu, Kunda Datta, Damodar Pandit, and Jagadananda Pandit, these 4 devotees, to accompany Lord Chaitanya his journey to Jagannath Puri. So together, the Lord and these 4 great personalities were traveling together, and they passed through many places. Discussed, they first visited a Varaha temple. Of course, they visited many places, but some significant places are mentioned, and then how they went to Remuna and how they discussed the beautiful pastimes of Sakshi Gopal, as Lord Chaitanya had heard from Srila Ishwarapuri. Very beautiful, the pastimes of Madhavendra Puri and Valji. After that, they reached Katak, where they took darshan of the Sakshi Gopal deities. Again, very beautiful Gopalji deities from Vrindavan, who on the request of the Brahmana devotee had come all the way to Vidyanagar to give witness. And they were in Vidyanagar for quite some time, and eventually, by the request of the king of Puri, Purushottam Dev, they were brought back to Orissa and they were installed in Katak. And they are there to this day being worshipped. After that particular place, the Lord, along with the devotees, continued their journey towards Jagannath Puri. It is said that on the bank of the Bhargi Nadi, just outside Jagannath Puri, Nityananda Prabhu, while Lord Chaitanya took bath in the Bhargi Nadi and was taking darshan of Kapoteshwar Mahadev, Nityananda Prabhu took the opportunity to break Lord Chaitanya's sannyasa danda into three parts. That's why that river has become known as the Dandabhanga Nadi, the river where the danda was broken. So after that episode, as Lord Chaitanya finally discovered that this is what has happened, they all had reached Athar Nala. Athar Nala is the place which is actually considered like the border of Jagannath Puri. Because the Lord, already from a distance, even before he reached Athar Nala, he was able to see the beautiful darshan of the chakra of Lord Jagannath. In those days, it was visible even much earlier. Nowadays, it's not visible. Nowadays, from Athar Nala, yes, it is visible. But Lord Chaitanya saw it much earlier, and he was, once he saw the chakra, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had no patience. He was madly in ecstasy. He was running, and the devotees were struggling to catch up with him, to keep pace with him. Finally, when they reached Athar Nala, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu realized, he came out of ecstasy, where is my danda? And Nityananda Prabhu told a story. Oh, you fell down, you were in ecstasy, I fell down, we both fell down, and the danda broke. Mahaprabhu understood there's some this doesn't seem to be the true explanation. So anyway, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu externally protested, showed symptoms of anger, and told Nityananda Prabhu and the devotees, you all are doing a lot of mischief. So I don't want to travel with you. Either you go ahead into Puri or I will go ahead. We will not go together. So the devotee said, no, Mahaprabhu, you go first, we will follow you. And then from that point onward, from Athar Nala onwards, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu entered Jagannath Puri and rapidly he started going impatiently. He started going towards the temple of Jagannath. So this is the kind of eagerness that a devotee has. When we go to the dham, we should have that kind of eagerness. Eagerness to reach the dham, eagerness to take darshan. This kind of eagerness is very pleasing to the Lord. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is showing from his own behavior what kind of eagerness he displayed. And even Athar Nala, it is actually our convention that as we enter the dham, just at the border of the dham, as we are entering, we get down from whatever vehicle we are in and we offer obeisances, take permission, and then enter the holy. Last time when we all went in a group, some of you are here in this class today. We went in the group, we did the same thing. We got down at Athar Nala, you all recollect, we offered obeisances, then we entered, just like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did, Nityananda Prabhu and others did. So we follow in the footsteps of the great soul. Mahajano yene gatas sapanta. And especially for us, sincere followers of Lord Chaitanya, our standards are derived from the standards that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his followers have established for us. So this particular chapter, chapter 6, begins from this point. So I have summarized Madhya Lila 5 chapters in the last 10 minutes, and we are going to continue from there. So the other 4 devotees were left behind, and in great enthusiasm, with an irresistible eagerness. What kind of eagerness? The eagerness which Srimati Radharani has to see Krishna. Feeling separation. So in that anticipation, he was rushing. It is said Chaitanya Mahaprabhu entered Jagannath's temple and he ran into the place very close to the altar where he could take darshan of Jagannath. It is said he was so overwhelmed by seeing Jagannath. In fact, Lord Chaitanya, when he saw Jagannath, he became so impatient in ecstasy and he so lost control over himself and cognizance of his surroundings that he ran towards Jagannath to embrace him. But as he came close to the altar, he didn't actually reach up to Jagannath, but by his own desire, became so much overwhelmed with ecstasy that he fell down unconscious just in front of the altar. Now it is said that by the Lord's arrangement, at the same time when Lord Chaitanya came there to take darshan and collapse, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya happened to be there. Now, before I continue the story, because it's not mentioned here, I just want to give you a quick background about Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya is an elderly and very learned Brahmana Vedantist. You can say that he was the most learned person in Puri in those days. And not only was he a learned Brahmana, but he was holding the position equivalent to that of a Rajguru, King Prataprudra. And he was the one who was taking care of Jagannath's temple, the services. He was in charge. Now, it's not mentioned here, but it is said from the home of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, which is to the south of Jagannath temple, that home is still there. To facilitate his service, there is a tunnel from the home of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, which goes directly into the altar of Lord Jagannath's temple. How many of you have seen that tunnel? Not the full tunnel, but at least the opening of the tunnel, because that tunnel is not accessible now. You cannot go through it. But he had that facility. It is in his home. And we have seen at least the entrance of the tunnel in his home. It has been locked. Nobody is allowed to go through it now. So that kind of access, it's like the back, I should not call it back door, but that privileged access that nobody can get into the premises, but from his home he can get. So he doesn't even have to go out on the streets to get into the temple. Even if the temple is locked, from his home he can straight appear inside the temple. So why I'm mentioning this is just so that we understand the kind of position he enjoyed of influence and respect in the kingdom at that time. So very learned and elderly. Elderly in the sense that he was of the generation of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's father, of that generation. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is so young. How old was he at this time? Anybody remembers? Chaitanya Mahaprabhu?
Was he 24, Prabhuji?
Correct. He was 24. Because this is just maybe just 2 weeks after his sannyas, and he took sannyas when he was 24 years. Correct? Just days after his sannyas passed time. It was 24 years. And Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, much elderly, white hair. He had children who were already married. That kind of a personality, very aristocratic, but very powerful, very influential. So he sees Lord Chaitanya. He doesn't know who this person is, but he sees the sannyasi rushing towards the altar, collapsing. And as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu collapses down, because he's trying to rush towards the deity of Jagannath, and near Jagannath's altar, just outside, there are all these guards holding sticks, even to this day. He will beat you if you, try to be over enthusiastic to do anything. So the watchmen there, when they saw Lord Chaitanya rushing towards the deity, they came behind him to stop him with a stick, thinking that who's this person who's rushing towards Jagannath? Nobody, obviously, that is not allowed for any devotees to come and rush into the altar. He was not just rushing to take darshan, he was rushing into the altar to embrace Jagannath. So the watchman was about to beat him, but Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was watching this entire scene, and he became alarmed. He could make out from the way the scene was that this person is not an ordinary person. He quickly intervened and he stopped this watchman. He was very impressed because he saw the beauty of Lord Chaitanya. He saw his effulgence. He could see that he was wearing sannyas clothes. And as he came closer to Lord Chaitanya, who was unconscious, he could see the ecstatic symptoms which Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was manifesting in his body. due to that love of God. And far out symptoms, because he could make out from the symptoms that these are symptoms which no human being can display. These are Sudipta Satvika Bhavas, which only eternal liberated associates can manifest. So Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was very surprised. At the same time, he didn't know from where this personality suddenly appeared, and now he has collapsed or unconscious, and he was not able to immediately revive him. They were trying, but Chaitanya Mahaprabhu continued to remain unconscious. And Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was thinking what to do, what to do. It was now just time for an offering for Lord Jagannath. So obviously they couldn't keep Lord Chaitanya lying there in front of the altar because they had to make a bhoga offering to Jagannath. So Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya instructed his servant and some of his disciples. He was also a teacher. He's also an acharya who taught. He instructed his disciples and some servants that please lift up this great personality carefully and bring him to my home. He's still unconscious. So with the help of the watchman as well as some of the disciples, they took him to the house. The house of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya is just south of the temple. In front of Simhadwar, if you go a little bit ahead, barely 5 minutes walk. We have visited the home of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. Very beautiful. There are many special features there. We'll not go into that today. But they took him there and they very nicely, carefully placed Lord Chaitanya comfortably on in a very sanctified room, a very nice environment. But the Lord continued to remain unconscious. They were trying to revive him, but he was unconscious. In fact, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was so worried. One of the things of intense ecstasy is that sometimes in intense ecstasy, in intense trance, in intense samadhi of pure love of Godhead, sometimes bodily functions also become practically suspended. Sometimes it seems as if the person is not breathing at all. There are some cases where certain personalities, even their heartbeat stops for some time. Sometimes, even for yogis, they go into a suspended animation, so to say. So Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was noticing that from the belly of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, you could see, usually breathing causes some movement in the belly. It seemed that there's no breathing happening, and he became very worried. What is this which is happening? Maybe he's not breathing. Has he passed out, passed away? So he quickly took a cotton swab and kept it close to the nostril of Lord Chaitanya. And he could see a very feeble air current coming from the nostril. See the cotton just slightly disturbed. He said, oh, good. He's not, he's in some trance, but he's alive. Sannyasi is alive. So he became a bit hopeful. And then he was continued to observe these ecstatic transformations, and he was really, really amazed because he was a very learned person. Even though he was at that time an impersonalist. Personalist means he was a Mayavadi in the sense that he believed that supreme absolute truth is ultimately impersonal, and that the forms of the Lord which are manifested in this world are forms that the impersonal Brahman takes. And those forms, they accept a material body when they come into this world as incarnation. So that is the central idea of the Mayavad philosophy, which obviously the Bhagavad philosophy doesn't agree with. But he knew about transcendental ecstasy. He was very well versed, so he was amazed because he could make out that as per I have understood about Ras Tattva and Ras Shastra, that this kind of ecstasies it is impossible for a human being to manifest. This kind of Sudipta Satvika Bhavas can be manifested, because this kind of Sudipta Satvika Bhav is when all symptoms of ecstasy become simultaneously manifest thousands of times over. And this is impossible for an ordinary living entity to manifest. Something very odd about this. How can a human being manifest like this? So Bhattacharya was thinking like this, and he was trying to contemplate. Mahaprabhu still continued to be, unconscious. By the time this had happened, the four devotees who were following, headed by Sri Nityananda Prabhu, they reached Jagannath's temple. Because by this time, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu will already be in the temple taking darshan. Let us go and find him. So by the time they reached the temple door, there was already some chaos and some discussions amongst the crowds happening. Why? Because just now, just little while ago, this episode of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's fainting in ecstasy had happened. So there was this discussion, oh, there was the sannyasi, he fainted. So Nityananda Prabhu, Mukunda Datta and others, they came and they heard about this and they understood. And they could, from the descriptions, figure out, oh, this must be Lord Chaitanya. The way they are talking, the way of ecstasy, the sannyasi and, this kind of things. Lord Chaitanya is capable of. Because we know what kind of moods he goes into and what kind of ecstasy he would have had, after Jagannath, face to face. So as they were thinking like this, at the same time, another great devotee by the name of Gopinath Acharya, who was based in Jagannath Puri, Gopinath Acharya happened to come there. At the gate where these four great personalities were standing and trying to gather information about what had happened and the whereabouts of Lord Chaitanya. So who's this Gopinath Acharya? This Gopinath Acharya is the brother-in-law of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, who's now with Lord Chaitanya in his home, is his brother-in-law. His Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya's sister is his wife. So Gopinath Acharya, because his background was also from Nadia, he happened to know Mukunda Datta. He saw Mukunda Datta and he came, oh, Mukunda, you are here. Such a pleasant surprise. What are you doing in Jagannath Puri? And Mukunda was also so happy. And of course, Gopinath Acharya was elderly in age. Mukunda offered his obeisances to Gopinath Acharya. And Gopinath Acharya inquired about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. You all have come here. By the way, Gopinath Acharya was a great devotee of Lord Chaitanya. He was already aware of Lord Chaitanya. He was a great devotee in the sense that he already knew Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is not different from Krishna. He's a great devotee himself. But Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya wasn't. So Gopinath Acharya said, oh, you are here, tell me news about Lord Chaitanya. Mukunda Datta says, oh, this is so amazing, Gopinath Acharya ji. Just now, as I got all this news, I was just thinking about you only. And suddenly here you come. Because I know you are based in Jagannath Puri and we heard something about Lord Chaitanya and which we believe is about Lord Chaitanya because we heard some episode that has just happened here. And we have been told that he has been taken to the home of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, he's my brother-in-law. Oh, this is what has happened. Is it? Oh, Lord Chaitanya is here. Oh, he has been taken to the house of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. So immediately, and that you all have come and this. So he came to know the whole background and Gopinath Acharya said, perfect. If this is what has happened, let us immediately go to the house of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. I will later arrange for darshan for you. So they didn't even go inside Jagannath's temple to take darshan. And Nityanand Prabhu, Mukunda Datta, Jagadananda, Damodar immediately went with Gopinath Acharya to the house of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya to check on the welfare of Lord Chaitanya. So they all came to the house of Lord Chaitanya, of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. At that time, Lord Chaitanya was still in his trance. So as soon as they entered, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, he saw Nityananda Prabhu. Because he's a Avadhut. he immediately offered his obeisances to Nityananda. He welcomed all the other devotees very nicely, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, Gopinath Acharya, of course. Gopinath Acharya and Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, because they are like equals, they are brother-in-law, but they were of the same age, they were equals. They had a very close, friendly relationship. Gopinath Acharya very eagerly came in to take darshan of Lord Chaitanya because Lord Chaitanya was there, and when he came in and he saw Lord Chaitanya in that ecstasy, the Chaitanya Charitamrita says, even though he was so happy to see Lord Chaitanya, at the same time he felt sad to see him in an unconscious state. So Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya told, this is the situation, Lord Chaitanya is here, he's safe, nothing has happened, we are just waiting for him to return back to external consciousness. And the devotees of course knew that this is the Lord's regular episodes. Nityananda Prabhu and others. They just wanted to make sure that the Lord is not hurt or he's not, in any way inconvenienced. They could understand that everything is taken care. He is nicely comfortable under the care of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. So under the request of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya told one of his sons, Chandaneshwar, told him that, while we are waiting for Lord Chaitanya to come back to external consciousness, please take these 4 great guests, Nityananda, Mukunda, Jagadananda and Damodar, take darshan of Lord Jagannath. So once they saw Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is taken care of, these 4 went with Chandaneshwar, the son of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, took the darshan of Jagannath. Now Nityananda Prabhu is also no less than Lord Chaitanya. Nityananda Prabhu sees Jagannath, he also fainted in ecstasy. So they were all, the other 3 were struggling to control him. The Pujari gave a garland of Lord Jagannath. Nityananda Prabhu was very pleased to receive that garland. And after taking darshan of Jagannath, the 4 of them again came back to the home of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. It is said all the devotees to revive Lord Chaitanya, the standard technique to revive Lord Chaitanya from his unconscious state of ecstasy. What was the mode? What was the technique used? Anyone? Guesses?
Chant Harinam.
Haribo, yes. So they were loudly chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Very loud kirtan. So that is how Lord Chaitanya would come out of his ecstasy. So they were chanting very loudly, and suddenly around noontime, Lord Chaitanya came out of his ecstasy and suddenly loudly chanting Hari Hari. Did not like get up in a very soft way, very ecstatically started chanting Hari Hari. So Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya and all the devotees were very happy. The Lord has come out from his ecstatic mood. It was already known. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya requested them, you all have come from a long travel. You just entered Jagannath Puri. I'll arrange a nice feast for you of Jagannath's Prasad. Please take bath and come. So, it was pretty standard in those days, especially Brahmanas will take bath at least 3 times a day. First, as soon as you get up. Second, just before noon. And third is in the evening. 3 times. And in Jagannath Puri, it is quite customary. There are many tirthas, but the most prominent tirtha there is the Mahodadhi, the ocean. So devotees, usually will go there and take bath. So Lord Chaitanya and all the devotees went there. They took their bath in the sea, and then they came back to the home. Because actually, even though right now, the current setting, the home of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya is not seen immediately adjacent the ocean. Actually, it is very close, but now there are so many houses around, so you don't see it like immediately next to it. In fact, just next to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya's house, currently Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya's house is also the ashram of Ganga Mata Goswamini. And she's also another great personality. We don't have time to talk about her today. But that is very close to another very beautiful lake. I forgot the name of that lake. If anybody remembers, you can just opposite the house of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. There's a very beautiful tirtha. Anyway, so the sea is also not very far from there. So they four went, took bath, and then they came back. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, of course, had full access to Jagannath's Mahaprasad because he's the chief priest. So he had arranged for all the Mahaprasad, all in the sense, all varieties of Mahaprasad to be organized. And with great enthusiasm, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya started making arrangements to serve all kinds of Mahaprasad to the 5 devotees. Gopinath Acharya and Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya both were busy serving these 5 devotees. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was very reluctant to eat any opulent food. So Mahaprabhu told Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, please just give me some boiled vegetables from this. Don't give me any opulent foodstuffs. Because there was sweet rice, there was rabdi, so many other cakes, traditional cakes. The food was actually laid out on golden plates for Lord Chaitanya and the other devotees. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was also very opulent, very rich Brahmana. Yes, thank you. Shweta Ganga, correct. Shweta Ganga is just opposite. Which is also one of there are 5 prominent tirthas or water bodies in Jagannath Puri, apart from the ocean, 4 more. Shweta Ganga is one of them, Markandeya's, Kunda is one of them, and there are a couple of others. So, Lord Chaitanya tried to say, no, I am sannyasi, I don't eat opulent food stuff. So sannyasi is important to control the senses. When we overeat or eat opulent foods, then the mind becomes difficult to control. But Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was not inclined to accept any such request. He said, no, today you have come first time. And today I insist you eat exactly as what Jagannath has eaten. Another time you want to eat simply is okay, but today everything. So anyway, so Lord Chaitanya relented. He said, okay, he's an elderly person of his father's age, so whatever he has served. So all of them, all the devotees with great pleasure, they accepted prasad, the Mahaprasad of Jagannath. This is the beauty of Jagannath Puri. Because in Jagannath, they don't offer to Lord in one small plate, few vatis of prasad. Pots and pots and pots of rice, dal, sabji, sweets. In earthen pots, they are cooked and they are placed in the Bhoga Mandap and offered to Jagannath. And then they are distributed to the devotees. Tons and tons of rice. I don't remember the numbers, but that's also very interesting information. Tons of rice is cooked and distributed every day in Jagannath Puri. So it is said Jagannath's hands are always wet because he never washes. By the time he finishes one meal and the hand dries, another offering, another offering, another offering. So that is how it is said. So the devotees, they were very happy, and after they finished, they told Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya and Gopinath Acharya, now you please have lunch. So then they went for lunch. So after Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya and Gopinath Acharya had completed their lunch, then Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya came in front of Lord Chaitanya, because this is the first time they were actually talking, because Lord Chaitanya had just come out from his ecstasy. There was no real conversation between Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya and Lord Chaitanya. So after lunch, after both of them had lunch, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya comes in front of Lord Jagannath, in front of Lord Chaitanya. He comes in a very humble way, because even though he's elder, Lord Chaitanya is a sannyasi. He's half his age. And Lord Chaitanya is probably half or even less than half the age of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. So he comes in front of Lord Chaitanya and he says to Lord Chaitanya, Om Namo Narayana. I bow down to Narayan. So amongst the impersonalists, there is a tradition sometimes that those who have taken sannyas, they are sometimes referred to as Narayan. That because a person who has taken sannyas and who has renounced the material world, uh, there is a misconception that he has become as good as Narayan. So Lord Chaitanya did not respond to that greeting in the same way. So Lord Chaitanya responded to that greeting by saying, Krishne matirastu. May your mind be fixed on Krishna. So when Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya heard that, he realized, oh, this personality, this sannyasi is not the usual Advaitist sannyasi. He seems to be a Vaishnav sannyasi. But he didn't say anything immediately. Then Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya spoke to Gopinath Acharya, his brother-in-law. Do you know anything about this sannyasi? Do you know anything about his purvashram, his background? What he was in his previous ashram before he took sannyas? Yeah, I know. Actually, you also know, in the sense that you are also connected. So, my father-in-law and your father, they were all Nilambar Chakravarti, who's the grandfather of Lord Chaitanya from his maternal side, and your father were actually classmates in school in Navadvip. So he is the grandson of Nilambar Chakravarti. And Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya knew Nilambar Chakravarti. He knew his father respected Nilambar Chakravarti so much. And he said his father's name of Lord Chaitanya's father's name is Jagannath. And his surname is Mishra Purandar. So his name is Jagannath Mishra. And this sannyasi, his name before he took sannyas was Vishwambhar Mishra. His name was Vishwambhar and his surname was. And he has now taken sannyas. They are all residents of Navadvip. And I was also a resident of Navadvip. In fact, this Mukunda I know from Navadvip days. So when Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya figured out that, oh yeah, that he's from Navadvip and they all are from the same background, he was very happy. He was very happy. See, when we meet suddenly somebody and then we find out, oh, that there is some connection somewhere that we have had with that person. We are from the same place. We are from the same town. We went to the same school. We find some commonality. We immediately feel there is some connection. And on top of that, he was a sannyasi. So Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, once he understood all of this, he approached Lord Chaitanya and said that, you are actually a very respectable person. You are from Brahmana family. You are from Nadia. I have understood about your background. Not only are you respectable because of your background, now you are a sannyasi. So that is why I am like a servant to you. So this is the culture within our Sanatan Dharma tradition that, irrespective of the philosophy, a sannyasi is respected by all. Irrespective of age, a sannyasi is treated as a guru. Even though the sannyasi is younger to us, even a elderly person has to offer respects to a sannyasi. So the sannyasi has given up all material connections. So he says that you're a sannyasi, so I wish to become your personal servant. So very humbly. He's a Raj Pandit, Rohit, and such a powerful, respectable personality. By the way, just so that I do not forget, actually, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya is an incarnation of Brihaspati. Who's Brihaspati? Brihaspati is the guru of the Devatas. So Brihaspati incarnated in the form of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. So when Lord Chaitanya heard what Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya is saying, he suddenly said, Vishnu, 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 how can you be my servant? You are so elder to me. You are such a learned Vedantist. Because you are so learned in transcendental philosophy, you are qualified to be the master of all the people in the world. So Mahaprabhu reciprocally, in fact, glorified him as if that you are actually superior. I am just a young sannyasi. See, Lord Chaitanya always took a very humble mood. Even though he's such a great personality, I mean, not just a great person, even though he's the supreme personality of God. You are, you are qualified. I am just a young sannyasi. I just took sannyas. I don't know what is good, what is bad. I'm just learning. So you are such an elderly, fatherly person here, and you are so learned here. So I am taking shelter of you. You cannot be my servant. I will take shelter. I accept you like my guru. Actually, I came here to Jagannath Puri just to associate with you. That is why I am taking shelter of you. Please take care of me. Now that I'm in Puri and you are the main person in Puri, I am under your care. Very humbly. Huh? So this is how Lord Chaitanya would win over and transform people. Lord Chaitanya's formula for transformation was not that, hey, come here, I will defeat you and I will smash all your philosophy and show how I know and you don't know. Lord Chaitanya never took that kind of an approach, Krishna consciousness, or to transforming people. Because while one may in debate defeat another person, one cannot actually win over the hearts of people by taking a confrontational approach. So Mahaprabhu's approach, and consistently, you will see this in many pastimes, the way he transformed Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, in a similar way he transformed Prakashanand Saraswati and so many other personalities. And he thanked him. He said, actually, I was put into such a difficulty today, I collapsed in front of Jagannath and I was, I inconvenienced the whole environment in the temple, but you have been so kind that you saved me. You brought me to your home and took care and managed everything. So I'm so grateful to you that you managed the situation where I fainted. So Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya said, yes, yes. I can understand that, fainted in ecstasy. And that is why I request you, please do not go to see Lord Jagannath alone. Whenever you want to go to see Jagannath, you tell me, I will send somebody with you or I will come personally with you. But my request and suggestion to you is henceforth, don't go and see Jagannath alone. Lord Chaitanya said, yes, yes, I understand. I don't want to create such a situation again. So going forward, I will never go near the altar of Jagannath. I will stand far away from Jagannath. I will stand behind Garuda's Stamba, where Garuda's pillar is there. And from behind Garuda's Stamba only, I will take darshan of Lord Jagannath. So it is said from that day onwards, after the first time Lord Chaitanya went there, after that the Lord has always been taking darshan from behind Garuda Stamba. And for those who have been in Jagannath's temple, you know how far Garuda Stamba is from Jagannath. Even though you can see Jagannath, of course, nowadays it's a bit difficult to see from there, but Jagannath is still visible, but the full altar is not visible from there. But that was Lord Chaitanya's decision, that going forward, I will take darshan only from Garuda Stamba. So Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, after that, he turned to Gopinath Acharya and he says that, now you go and take Goswamiji, he referred to as Lord Chaitanya as Goswamiji. Please take Goswamiji and give him darshan of Jagannath. Also, we need to arrange a place for Goswamiji to stay, Lord Chaitanya to stay. So, there is a place which is the home of my maternal aunt, my Masi. That home is a very nice place, is suitable for this sannyasi because it's in a very solitary place. So nobody will disturb him, especially because I can see that he goes into these moods of ecstasy and all that. So, I think that place is good. So Gopinath Acharya, can you please escort Swamiji to the home of my maternal aunt? And, of course, the aunt was not staying there. That home was available. And Gopinath Acharya was very happy. He escorted Lord Chaitanya, he took him to the residential quarters. It said he showed him everything, from where to take water, where all the pots and everything. All arrangements were made. And Lord Chaitanya rested there for the day. The next day morning, as instructed by Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, Gopinath Acharya came, Lord Chaitanya, to escort him, take darshan of Lord Jagannath. Later, Gopinath Acharya took Mukunda Datta, and together with Mukunda Datta, they went to the house of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. So when they went to the house of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya spoke to the Datta. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was very curious to know more about Lord Chaitanya. He was already impressed by both the beauty, the ecstatic symptoms, as well as the humility of Lord Chaitanya. But he was also struck. He has taken sannyas at the age of 24. Age of 24 is unusual because typically in Vedic tradition, traditionally, of course, except for those few who take sannyas only from directly after brahmacharya life, generally will go through grahastha, vanaprastha, and then after experiencing the first three ashrams, then they take sannyas. 4 years, sannyasi. Just like in ISKCON also, so many great personalities took sannyas at very early age. But taking sannyas at a very early age is also a very difficult situation. Because when a person may not be so experienced and mature, it can always be a challenge to maintain the vows of sannyas throughout the life. So when Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya met Mukunda Datta, he started inquiring from Mukunda Datta and he said, please, I can see, I want to ask you some questions. I can see this Goswami, this sannyasi, he's so meek and he's so humble. He's so beautiful, such a transcendental personality. Whenever I see him, I just feel so much fatherly affection for him. Please tell me from which sampradaya he has taken sannyas. And what actually is his sannyas name? Because he was referring to him as Goswami. So Gopinath Acharya, because obviously he knew all the details, he immediately responded. He said, oh, the Lord's name is Sri Krishna Chaitanya. And his sannyas, Guru, is the great sannyasi Keshava Bharati. So Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya immediately commented. He said, oh, Sri Krishna Chaitanya. Actually, Sri Krishna is a nice name. But why has the sannyasi kept the name Sri Krishna Chaitanya? This Chaitanya, because in the Bharati Sampradaya, Chaitanya is usually the title given to brahmacharis. So why? I know he's meek and humble, but why? He's a sannyasi. Why has he kept the name Chaitanya? Of course, the Lord has his own reasons why he kept Chaitanya, and we know why he kept the name Sri Krishna Chaitanya, because Sri Krishna Chaitanya means Krishna consciousness. Sri Krishna Chaitanya means Krishna consciousness. And he says, oh, and also he has taken sannyas from the Bharati Sampradaya. Oh, that means he's a, Bharati Sampradaya is not the best quality of sannyas. It is not the Harvard and Stanford of sannyas. It is not the Ivy League of sannyas. It is second tier institution to take sannyas from. He made a comment like that, and Gopinath Acharya didn't like it at all. Because Gopinath Acharya knew that Lord Chaitanya is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. What does he need sannyas for? He has taken sannyas to deliver the world. What does it matter for him? Whether it's from Bharati Sampradaya or from another Sampradaya. Gopinath Acharya protested. He says, Shri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he is not dependent on any external formality. In fact, there is not even a need for him to accept sannyas. So Bhattacharya, anyway, he didn't debate immediately at that point. The Datta was also there. The Bhattacharya started speaking, he started reflecting, he started telling Mukunda and Gopinath Acharya that this sannyasi, he's so young, so youthful, he's in the peak of his youth. I'm really concerned how he's going to be able to maintain sannyas. See, what happens is sannyasis usually have many, they interact with so many people, so many community people, and they come, take worship. I mean, they worship, they come to listen to them. And especially because he's young and beautiful, sometimes it's possible that even persons from the opposite sex may get attracted towards them, may approach them. Even though, of course, in those days it was unusual. But anything is possible. So this is a very dangerous situation. So feeling very fatherly towards Lord Chaitanya with a genuine desire to protect him and out of genuine concern, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya said that, I think, the way I see things, it's going to be very difficult for him to maintain sannyas the way I think things are now. So, I must help him. So I will teach him the Vedanta philosophy. I will teach him so nicely that he'll be so fixed up in renunciation. He'll be fixed up in the understanding of the impersonal philosophy, and he will be thoroughly detached from the material world. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya thought that, Lord Chaitanya needed some additional coaching, philosophical coaching, so that he may remain fixed in his renunciation and on the path of Brahman realization. And not only that, actually, if Lord Chaitanya is willing, he didn't say Lord Chaitanya, if this sannyasi is willing, he is now in a second class sampradaya, I will arrange for initiation, re-initiation for him from a first class Saraswat sannyas sampradaya. So in those days, of course, there are around 10 sannyas, 10 prominent sannyas groups, and each of those sannyas groups have different titles for the sannyasi. So 3 amongst them are considered first class. I think Saraswat, Tirtha, and Ashram. These 3 sannyasis. And this title, and after the sannyas name, this title is added. And then there are the Bharati, then there are the Giris, there are the Aranyas, there are the Parvata, and there are so many other categories of sannyasis. And each of these titles has a particular meaning. But the Saraswat are considered the topmost. Said, I will arrange. And I will personally do all the samskaras to make sure he's reinitiated, so he's really fixed up. And Gopinath Acharya was, really thinking, my God, this Sarvam, my brother-in-law, is really out of his mind. He wants to help him, but he doesn't know. Because he was trying to make him understand, Arey Baba, this person doesn't need anything like this. He doesn't need your help to remain a good sannyasi. He's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So he straight away told Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, oh my dear Bhattacharya, you do not know the greatness of Lord Chaitanya. Can't you see all the symptoms of the Supreme Personality of Godhead are within the personality of Lord Chaitanya? They are fully manifest. He is directly the original Supreme Personality of Godhead. But those who are ignorant people, in bracket, people like you, he didn't say it, they are unable to recognize him because of their ignorance. Because they are not properly fixed in the real conclusion of knowledge to understand the secret of the Supreme Personality of God. So as this was happening, there were some disciples of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya who also happened to be there. They immediately protested to defend their teacher, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. They said, oh, how come you are saying he's the Supreme Lord? What evidence do you have? Say that Lord Chaitanya is the Supreme Personality of God. We only accept knowledge based on logical analysis. So you have to prove to us how come he is the Supreme Lord. So Gopinath Acharya, he said, Arey Baba, you cannot understand the Supreme Truth simply by logic. You cannot understand it by hypothesis, by analysis, by guesswork. The Supreme Truth and the true nature of the Supreme Absolute Truth can be understood by the mercy of the Supreme Personality of God. You all cannot understand it. If one receives even a little bit of the Supreme Lord's mercy, then by his mercy one can understand that he is the Supreme Lord. And then he quotes one verse from the Srimad Bhagavat, which actually substantiates what he has just said. That if one gets even a little bit favor of the Lord, then one can actually understand the real nature of the Supreme Lord. But by studying Vedas, by doing austerity, by logic, one is unable to reach the right conclusion. Then he says, but what to do? Actually, it is not even your fault. Because you are simply scholars. Who can reach the right conclusion simply by scholarship? You all have not received the mercy of the Lord Chaitanya, of the Supreme Lord. So Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya didn't like this because it was a bit indirectly critical. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya said, please speak carefully. Gopinath Acharya, what are you saying? Oh, so you are saying we did not receive mercy of the Lord, you have received. You can understand, we cannot understand. So Gopinath Acharya said that yes, that is what I am saying. He was very blunt. Can you not see? You are learned in scriptures. Can you not see what are the symptoms that this personality is showing? You yourself said that these kind of symptoms are not possible in any ordinary living person. You only said, isn't it? But still you could not identify him. That means you did not receive his mercy. I can clearly see. Kunda Datta knows, Nityan Prabhu, all of them know he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but you are unable. And then he goes on, philosophically arguing. I don't want to go through all the arguments. So essentially, he told him that you are an illusion. Please don't become angry, but you are an illusion. You are unable to understand. And actually, I'm not simply speculating. I'm not simply saying sentimentally, but I can prove to you on the basis of Shastra. You want Shastra, no? You cannot understand who's Supreme Lord, who's not, simply based on logic. But you want from Shastra, I will prove to you on the basis of Shastra that this sannyasi is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And then Gopinath Acharya started quoting from scriptures, verse after verse after verse, because there are many verses in the scriptures which explain the incarnation of Lord Chaitanya. And we'll go through those verses in the next class because they're important verses, and I will want to speak briefly on all those verses. We are already almost at 10 o'clock. But what actually happens is Gopinath Acharya, because obviously they are not happy to hear that, oh, saying you received mercy and I didn't receive mercy. Nobody likes to accept this kind of an argument. I will also present it on the basis of Shastra. So essentially Gopinath Acharya is saying, see, I can see Shastra so clearly and understand that he is the Supreme Lord. But you claim to know Shastra, but you are unable to recognize him as the Supreme Lord. That means you have not received the mercy. Second proof. So that is essentially what Gopinath Acharya is trying to say. So he goes through various verses, and we will continue the discussion of those verses the next class. So this chapter is a very long chapter. This chapter is close to 300 verses, and we have covered roughly 1/3 of the chapter today. So next class, we will continue from this place of how he argues from scripture about how Lord Chaitanya is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And there are many verses in scriptures, 20-30 verses in different scriptures, Mahabharata, Bhagavad, so many Puranas, Upanishads, where clearly it is mentioned that Krishna will come in Kali Yuga in this particular form and perform these activities. So that's why even in our society, even in our parampara, we are not simply sentimentally accepting Lord Chaitanya as Krishna. Sometimes there's a tendency amongst religious groups, amongst religious organizations. My guru is avatar. Everybody wants to make their guru avatar. So Lord Chaitanya is not that kind of an avatar. You agree? You agree? You agree? We all voted him and made him avatar. So no. This is not, a person doesn't become a avatar by voting or by agreement unless one has supporting evidence from scripture, because the Lord doesn't just suddenly come on earth. It's not that the Lord says, oh, I'm feeling bored. Can I go and take incarnation on earth? The Lord doesn't simply do like that. The Lord comes time to time. There is a schedule. The Lord's incarnations appear. So Lord's incarnations are already predicted. The scriptures upfront. And there are many quotes. Later, I will try to share a document which gives all the quotes compiled together of Lord Chaitanya's appearance as Krishna, who's going to appear as Lord Chaitanya. So when you read that, you will also develop faith. Just like Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya is doubting, maybe some of us are doubting. I am. Prabhuji is saying, Chaitanya Charitamrita is saying, is he really Krishna? So you read the verses for yourself and then you will know for yourself that Lord Chaitanya is Krishna himself. So anyway, I'm going to pause here. We'll continue the discussion. It's a very sweet pastime. This pastime is the pastime of how ultimately Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, who was an impersonalist Mayavadi, Vedantist, dry speculator and logician, was transformed into a loving, humble devotee of the Lord. So the transformation will now slowly happen. His heart is slowly being transformed as he is associating with the Lord and his devotees. So we'll continue the discussion in the next conversation. So we are pausing at roughly. You can just assume verse 90. So actually we covered up to 93. Yeah. From 94 onwards we can discuss. Because 93 onwards we can discuss. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya objects to this claim and says, oh, actually, what you are saying, incarnation of God, incarnation of... According to Shastra, there is no incarnation of God in Kali Yuga. So then Sir Gopinath Acharya defeats him and quotes Shastra to refute whatever Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya said. So that whole set of arguments we'll discuss. It's very nice. So all these arguments are presented so that we also develop faith. Because if we are not convinced, how we will appreciate Lord Chaitanya, how we will receive his blessings, how we will take shelter of him. Okay, so thank you very much. Any questions, any comments? Before I forget, before you ask questions, before I forget, tomorrow is Ekadashi fasting. I think in India also, I think it's the same tomorrow only.
Yes, Prabhuji, it's tomorrow.
Right, yeah, so tomorrow is Yogini Ekadashi, breakfast day after tomorrow. I have posted the time in the group. In Kuala Lumpur, it is 7:04 a.m. to 11:04 a.m. for breaking the fast. Also, I wanted to share that this Saturday I am busy. I'll be away, so my apologies. I think I wanted to announce upfront that we may not have the class this Saturday. So our cosmology series, we will continue our discussion the following week. I wanted to announce earlier so that if you want to plan for something else, then you can plan. Otherwise, nobody likes last moment cancellations, especially on a Saturday evening. Okay, so I was thinking whether I should last minute try to see if I can fit in, but then I thought, why should I keep you in suspense until the last minute? So I'm letting you know upfront. So also for the cosmology series, like what I mentioned, please try to read along and understand. We are also having recordings of the classes. So if you think you need to revisit some of the classes to understand it better and also read along, images also, whatever video, whatever pictures I'm using to explain the cosmology, I'm also putting that in the group If you want, you can save them to your local gallery or your desktop and keep a copy so that, have a ready reference. So anytime you want to brush up, you can just quickly go and have a look at them. Of course, the best is to buy the Bhagavad Cosmology book by Pavaneshwar Prabhu. Also, please remind me if I forget. I'll not go into that today. But we discussed, Amit Prabhu had asked a couple of questions in the last class, and I was uncertain about a couple of answers. So I have found out the answers. So I will update you on those answers when we resume our cosmology discussions. Please remind me. I can start at the class with that clarification. He asked about the Mount Kailas and also Meru, daughters of Meru. We discussed about it. So we'll come to that in the next class. So I will give clarity because I managed to check on that. Okay, sorry. Yeah. Any questions? Any comments? I will try to answer. Wonderful. So these pastimes, when you go to Puri, it is so nice. When we know the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya and then we go to these places, then actually, so nice. Because for me, when I'm narrating these pastimes, because all these places, practically almost all the places that we have spoken about, if not all, the vast majority of the places have been personal. So when I'm narrating, I'm visualizing all these, episodes happening at those places. Whether it's the house of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, whether it is the Dandabhanga Nadi, whether it is Athar Nala, whether it is in Shantipur, the house of Advaita, whether it is a Simhadwar, whether it was at the bank on the ocean where Lord Chaitanya would take bath, all these places. So it's very nice. So when we know the pastimes and we go to these places, it is so sweet because then we feel so nice to, just have that feeling that, oh, here Lord Chaitanya was sitting here, he ate his lunch. Yeah, this is the passage from where Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya would go and enter into Jagannath's temple. So that place is very, very wonderful. Anyway, that particular place has a lot of many beautiful artifacts from the times of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. There are paintings on the wall of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So there are many artifacts which are from the time of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It's a very, very wonderful place. So we are so fortunate because we have had the fortune of being born at a time which is only 500 years plus since Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared. So all these places are still there. And these personalities are also not very far. Maybe 10, 20 generations away from us. So we are born at a very special time to see the mercy of Lord Chaitanya. Yes, I'm assuming there are no comments. I think you're also all stunned in ecstasy or you're very hungry, whatever the case is. If there's nothing, then we will conclude for the day. Okay, so no class this Saturday. So I will see you next will be on the following Tuesday. Shri Chaitanya Charitamrita ki Jai, Panchatattva ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai, Samaveta Gaura Bhakta ki Jai.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Pujaji. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Prabhuji.